right, namaste and welcome everyone. It is me, Nina Sachs from Yoga Awakening Africa. It is good to be here. And this is the first time, and we haven't really had a proper intro either, but I'm getting to chat with Ray. Ray Morris, is that right? From Yoga Door out in Somerset West. Cool.
That's right.
Ray, I mean, we had like a quick little 2-second catch up where I pretty much spoke more about me than about you. But I would love to hear kind of like your whole journey, your background, how you got into yoga. And the reason why I wanted to have this chat with you is to chat about kind of like what your personal mastery course is all about, and just hear about that. So like a lot of people that I interview, their journey has started with yoga, some form of transformation happened, and then things just moved in a different direction. And I think that's what happens very often. So I'm so intrigued to hear like what your story is. And this is going to be really cool because I literally know nothing about you. So I'm super excited. Why don't you just get going?
Okay, well, I was born in Ndola in Zambia, and I was at school there. And then I moved to, I moved, but not my family, because I went to boarding school in Zimbabwe, Harare, and then finally carried on down south to get to UCT. And I always planned not to stay in South Africa. Why would I? My parents left because of apartheid. So I wasn't going to end up here, but, my father had studied at UCT, so that's where I was going to go. And I got a degree in philosophy and English. So I've always been a thinker, one that likes to play with knowledge, that kind of thing. And at this stage, I'm just living my life as one does. Moved up to Joburg for a couple of months after I graduated, just to do a course there, which is where I met my husband. And that's what happened. Yes.
So, yeah, yes. We were just chatting beforehand and saying like, I'm not in Cape Town anymore. I met a man, and hence like I started living in Tanzania and now Mozambique, and kind of sounded like something similar may have happened to you.
That's exactly it. So here I am still in South Africa with my husband. Anyway, it was a computer course. So my first career was in computers, writing programs. Computers were really, really big in those days. They were literally like I think it was like 500 megabytes was in a double-story massive building. Now, I don't even know if you can see the size of a chip that carries 500 megabytes. When I think of these little phones with like 128 gigabytes, I'm going, what? Anyway, so it's been, talk about a journey. It's been fascinating just to watch that one. And of course, to be very careful about how technology has kind of, got into taking over our lives a little bit. But the reason why I'm giving all this background is because actually, what actually happened was that I discovered aerobics. It was the 80s. I mean, it was head warmers, what's it? Headbands, leg warmers.
Leg warmers.
Warm your head and band your legs, it doesn't matter. But yes, it was. And I started teaching at the studio where I was going. The person that owned the studio invited me to teach. And that was my first time leading classes. And wow, found another whole side to myself.
Did you just love it?
Oh, just like duck to a water to a duck. What's it like? It was really fantastic. And I discovered that I like teaching. I like sharing information. So these are the first baby steps actually, and in the exercise world. And I trained with the gurus of the day. It was Tim Noakes and Rob Cowling and all of those guys. But of course, the focus was about aerobic exercise. But I did a course with ETA, which still exists. In those days, they were Exercise Teachers Association. I think they call themselves now Exercise Teachers Academy, and they've branched out and do practically everything. So I got my little diploma after a year and opened my own studio in Observatory. We were living in Mowbray at the time in Cape Town. Unfortunately, my computer job was pretty hectic. I was in development, which meant I could be called on 24/7, and one is literally 2 in the morning, doesn't matter. And I was teaching morning and evening classes, and obviously choreographing routines and teaching my teachers. And so I got burned out. So I think that was a bit obvious. And when you talk about a turning point in your life, that was really what happened to me. I was on sick leave for 9 months, which is insane. I was diagnosed with ME at the time. I think that was just a fashionable diagnosis. At the end of the day, I just had a physical breakdown. And that is when I discovered meditation, specifically transcendental meditation. So I'm just amazed you mentioned Ayurveda, because that is basically what got me back on my feet. I was very strict Ayurveda regime, lifestyle, diet. I mean, the Abhyangas, sesame oil massages in the morning, and I mean, everything. And that literally brought me back to life. I can only think it was that, because nothing happened for the first few months.
Yeah.
And then as soon as
it's interesting that you say that, like with the I mean, you know, the meditation, the TM, you know, and I think this is also like one of those reasons why I've just become so passionate about the Ayurveda, is because it's just you can just feel like that you step into rhythm with nature, and you can just feel all that kind of like that toxicity just leaving your system. Anyway, I could go on and on, but yes, sorry, continue.
Well, yes, and you're preaching to the converted. So it's still, and that's why I'm just like nodding so ferociously, because it's very exciting to know that such ancient knowledge is still so valid today. It's got nothing to do with, you know, being old or tried and tested. It has got to do with being truth and being in touch with yourself. And as you said, nature, we're all nature. So yeah, we're going to get very distracted now, but okay. So that's kind of where, you know, if you want to call it, my journey really started. And I, at that time, then fell pregnant, decided to give up computing forever. Wise choice. And gratefully, my husband said, "You stay at home and look after the kids, and I will finance the family," which was amazing. And that really was a gift, because being able to spend that amount of time with children is a great privilege. Yeah. I know there are many working parents who struggle to find time. So that was lucky. And of course, I had time to do a lot of reading, and I just soaked up every self-help book that you could think of. Obviously, the TM and Ayurveda was right there. So very, very influenced by Deepak Chopra, who of course was the spokesperson for transcendental meditation at that time. And yeah, it seemed like exactly what you've just said. That's how you got so passionate, is just by what you've learned, and ditto. And I literally woke up one morning and went, I have learned so much. I am almost in bliss. I need to share this. Mm-hmm. I can't keep it to myself. I have to help others get out of the hole they've dug themselves, like I did for me. Mm-hmm. You know, I got myself out of the hole, but sure, ably helped with obviously transcendental meditation and Ayurveda, but not everybody wants to make that kind of commitment, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, you know, you've taken all this time to learn all the skills and what needs to get done. So instead of like go for the short route, like go to the person who's gone through it, has all the answers, and get yourself out of it quicker, or start to heal yourself more easily, instead of like, you know, when we do it and, you know, we faff around with this and we faff around with that, and like, you know, we do this half-heartedly, and eventually kind of like it all happens. But if you've just got someone who's like on the path before, they can tell you exactly what's going to happen, where you're going to possibly, you know, the wheels are going to come off, and how to get en route. Okay, sorry. Okay,
yes. So how I actually, I'm going to come back to that point, but how I actually sell me and the work that I do, the courses that I run, the personal mastery, is not that I actually have the answers. And I always say to everybody, I know nothing. I have absolutely no idea what the truth is. I mean, you know, everyone's looking at me like, what? And I'm going, however, I know what works for me. I know what my truth is. I am in touch with myself. And the best that I can do is introduce you to a process that will take you to the same place. Because it's only once you have self-knowledge that you can work with that. That's what you're working with all the time. It's not like there's something outside of yourself that you need to reach or achieve or whatever. It's about actually learning what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and develop courage into making choices that reflect your own authenticity.
Yeah.
And so that's where the job starts. Yeah. Is to know who you are, quite simply.
Yeah.
And I had one of the books that I had read and courses or, processes that I had worked through was The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And she actually then collaborated with Mark Bryan, and they developed a second book called The Artist's Way at Work, because the Artist's Way is very much for creative people who are working in the artistic environment. What I liked was to be able to say, okay, I'm not an artist, but I am my own blank canvas. I am going to create my life. So that's kind of where my personal mastery is all about, is about how to be creative with yourself. We come to this incredible playground we call planet Earth. There are so many opportunities and beauty and whatever. And I always go about yin and yang, 50% dark. You know how lucky you are if you've got 50% light in your life. I say to people, don't moan about the 50% dark. It has the same purpose. It's only going to teach you about yourself, how you respond to stuff, and whether or not it works for you. And so I literally woke up one morning and I went, you know what? I'm going to develop a 12-module course like The Artist's Way. But what I felt personally, because Julia's amazing. At the end of the book, she literally says, if you want to run the Artist's Way courses, please go ahead. Like, I give you full permission, no royalties, blah, blah, which is amazing. So I felt absolutely fine about looking at her as an inspiration. But as you correctly pointed out just now, even just doing the Artist's Way, I felt that there was a lot that I got out of it because of what I'd done previously. And I felt that it was Deepak Chopra, the 7 spiritual laws of success, the day before, the Dark Side of the Light Chasers. I mean, I'm talking, these are iconic books from last century, but I really felt quite strongly that that was the kind of thing that I wanted in my course too. So I took the model of the Artist's Way, and with my husband and a friend who was a facilitator at the time. So I felt that he could help me develop a workshop. I mean, I'm just little old me. I'm going to develop this course. Don't you just love the naivety when you just feel so about something that you can just dive in and do it? Never done anything like that in my life before. But, when you've been on enough courses, you think, hey, I kind of know how it works. And I just had the most phenomenal time. And I really would like to share with you the one evening, because it was an absolute magical moment. I started off with little cards, like literally, I mean, just little cards, and writing what exercises I wanted people to do. So they were either, I think maybe 1 or 2 were even directly lifted from Artist's Way, but they were either kind of tweaked, adapted, or made up, depending on, if I wanted to introduce something from somewhere else, inspired by these other books that I'd read. And suddenly I'm sitting with a pile of cards like this, and I'm going, okay, somehow I need to divide this into 12. Okay. And I literally sat there. Talk about creative blocks. I mean, I was like, okay. So I took a couple of deep breaths and I went and I sat down in my creative corner in the house, which was where my sewing machine is. And I lit a candle and I just handed over. I just went, this is too big for me. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. I'm surrendering. If I'm meant to be doing this, then let the inspiration come. It must have been 30 seconds when I went, well, why don't you just pile them into, what ones match to each other? There are obviously going to be some exercises. You don't want to talk about A when you're dealing with D, but there might be 3 A's in there. So I thought, okay, well, let me just start there. And I am not exaggerating. I almost get tearful for you. I'm not exaggerating. I got exactly 12 piles. And I think 1 or 2 maybe needed an extra exercise, or, to make them kind of equal, as it were. And there it was. And literally I worked through the spirals program. In fact, if I'm lucky, yeah, I've got an old copy here, excuse me. I recycle a lot. So this is actually my my attendance sheet for yoga this week. But that's the little picture. And I don't expect you to see it completely clearly, but it starts off with negative patterns. We have the foundation first, which I split away later to make an introductory course because people found it quite daunting to commit to 12 weeks. They're like, what? So I created Springboard. Do your 2 modules, and if you like it, we'll do the rest. So negative patterns, it's then you go up the spiral. Now we've got to convert it, looking into what I call the intelligences: emotional, spiritual, abundance. Those are all levels of intelligence that we have quite naturally. And then applying self-awareness, because that's actually where our truth lies. And then relationships, because now we're moving out beyond ourselves, and then putting it all together. Module 12 is literally a massive planning sessions where it gets us, it's as practical as you can be. It's any old planning session. It takes a full day. And the modules normally take about 3.5 hours. And so actually, that came first. I've been doing yoga since, I mean, I'd done some at school. You know, when I was 15, I remember we used to do sun salutes at break. Didn't have a clue what we were doing. It was just fun. And so it was always, you know, in the back of one's head, as one does. But
what school did you
after
go
my
to that this was happening? Was this in Zim?
Yeah. No, it wasn't formal yoga. It was just us
Oh,
learning.
okay.
Just
Okay.
the kids. I mean, it was me and a couple of girls. Yeah, no, that would have been impressive.
I know, I was just like, where in the world was that? Because even like in Europe, like I don't even know if they.
I mean, 40 years ago. Hold on, maybe 50 years ago. Yeah, keep forgetting how old I am. Easily 50, but probably was exactly 50 years ago. Yeah, and it just happened that one of my friends had come home and said, "Oh, I've learned the sun salute." And we were like, "Oh, okay." So who knows what we were doing? But anyway, we were saluting and, you know, trying to get fit. And you see, that was something for me too. I you know, genes, maybe my dad had always been a regular, you know, sports person. He broke his back in rugby and then had to move out of that into rowing, and then he became a coach. And I kind of feel all the kind of similarities talking through me. I like the discipline of working regularly, whether it's a spiritual workout or a physical workout or whatever. That works for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but that works for me. So it was after my babies that I actually started going to yoga regularly, with Anne and Martin up at Ananda Sangha here in Somerset West. And I managed to quite miraculously get my husband to do yoga as well. And he was absolutely flabbergasted. Now he's a runner, he's also a rugby player, you know, absolutely couldn't be interested in keeping fit, and one of those annoying people that picks up a squash racket, beats me the first time. And I've been doing these things for years. We had an opportunity to go snow skiing, you know, I don't know how many times I was fortunate to go with my family. He just goes, "Oh, okay, this is easy." So
it's so funny. I love it. Like Craig's exactly the same. Like I go and play tennis every week with the ladies, and you know, we'll have, like, you know, bring our husbands, you know, once a year for like, you know, an end of year function, and like all the men, okay, not all the men, but like, you know, then there's Craig, and he's just like, "Oh, doof, doof, doof."
Well, this is easy.
Yeah, I was like, no, dude. So I get you.
I thought, well, maybe not with yoga. Oh yes, with yoga. But literally, like, the eyes opened, the brain opened, and he said it was like putting on an old overcoat. It was like coming home. It was like, oh my word. So he got deeply into yoga. And he actually went to Ananda Kutir to get his YTT. And at that, okay, so we've had many different teachers in Somerset West. At that time, the teacher that we were both going to, we absolutely adored, and has been the biggest influence on us in terms of it being a very mindful practice, as opposed to we want to get a sweat and a workout. And, you know, I mean, you know, there's a lot of different ways of, I mean, yoga in the West now anyway, it's turned into a bit of an extreme sport, which I wouldn't go anywhere near it. But, you know, the kind of real classical, traditional, you know, very meditative type of practice, I suppose. And anyway, she was leaving and said to Mark, "Would you take over my students?" Oh, because Mark and I have been teaching at the universities and at various gyms. I mean, he was just suddenly out there, went from zero to mega dude in, you know, 50 seconds. And so Mark said, "Yeah, when are you going?" She said, "Well, I need you to take over in about 6 weeks." Okay. So I don't know how we pulled it off, but we converted our garage into a very beautiful studio, which we still use. Awesome. And I literally taught purely and simply because there would be times when Mark couldn't. And so I just filled in for him. And of course, I've been doing yoga for years and rediscovered that unbelievable love that I have for teaching. And of course, yoga. I mean, if I was passionate about aerobics, don't get me started on yoga. It is my life. In amongst all of this, and it was almost at the same time, Mark actually got cancer, and he went through 2 years protocol of sorting that out. And I can say the same thing. Yoga saved his life, without a doubt. And just that commitment to the studio, that he had to get back there. You know, I mean, he had a colostomy bag and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it was just very inconvenient and very difficult for him. But of course, during that time, I also did all the classes. So now I'm totally into it. Now I'm just teaching. Yeah. And yeah, so that's where we are. We run our little yoga door studio, and we have our few classes a week. And the merging of the personal mastery with the yoga was seamless, because it was, in fact, when either student does the other with me, it's embarrassing because I just use the same words. I go on about how just pay yourself attention, and then, you know, let the body talk to you, or then let the mind talk to you. It's just a different portal, but there are two ways of paying yourself attention. You're either going to do it, you know, with proprioception through the body, or you're going to do it doing a whole lot of what appear to be silly little exercises, but which just get the mind to think about things, because that's all it is. It's almost like questionnaire based, a lot of it. A fair amount of it is, and sometimes it just seems a bit you know, a bit random and a bit meaningless, you know. But actually, as it develops, it is, again, I hate to keep going, it's such a privilege, but it really is to see people literally opening up to themselves. It's not that they even need to change who they are with the rest of the world. They just need to get out of their own way. They just need to see how they've been in their own way. And we talk about responsibility, taking responsibility, meaning the responsibility is how you respond. That's all. It's not about taking blame for something, or this is your fault, or whatever. It's, I am responsible for how I experience my life in every possible way. And you see, oh, I can't bear what's coming out of my mouth because it sounds all very esoteric, but I know what I mean. Because it's absolutely true. Do you know what you know, if you just think about how we go, oh, the sky is blue, and then you agree with me. I have no idea if you're actually seeing the same color as me. We just happen to agree that that's blue.
Yeah.
And so when we recognize that, and also add to that the fact that we have been literally influenced, I call them the oys, the other influences. We have literally been influenced by every single human being that we have interacted with since the day we popped out of the womb. And at a very vulnerable time of our lives, we've had, sure, well-meaning parents and teachers and ministers and whoever else, and we don't have a clue who we are. We're just a little mirror of all of that. And so, yeah, do the work, go back inside. One, it can be very tricky or not. It really just depends what you're willing to deal with. It doesn't have to be nightmarish, but there's a good chance that some nightmares will happen. There's one little exercise. You've got to go and ask 3 friends what they don't like about you. I mean, that is one of those like cornerstone exercises, because people go, are you kidding? And I'm going, okay, who are you worried for? What you're going to hear, or the fact that you're asking them to do something so difficult? Some people refuse to do it. I mean, they either refuse to ask, or some friends say, I'm not going to tell you. Some people have relationships have broken because of that exercise. Other people's relationships have grown deeper for that exercise. And all I can say is, whatever comes out of it is perfect, because you have learned a lot about yourself, about the other person, about the relationship. And what a tiny, silly little exercise. I mean, okay, it's not so tiny and silly, but you know what I mean? So that's that's a homework exercise. Obviously, we don't do that around the table. The workshops last about 3.5 hours.
Okay.
For 11 modules. And then the last module is that big planning session where you literally take all that information. They've got little personal files now. It's like a little autobiography that they've written. Go through that now and make a plan for how you're going to focus, because that's all it is. It's about focus. Please, God forbid, deadlines. I mean, I know they are necessary. We never would have had this conversation if we hadn't had a certain day and time. So things like that are important.
Yeah.
But in terms of achieving, fulfilling our potential, it's ridiculous to say I'm going to have it done by the time I'm 35. I put that pressure on. We've got all our lives. And if our life happens to end when we're young, it's okay. You came to do what you came to do. Let's just live being present. Let's just live mindfully, aware, self-aware.
And I think that's such a true thing. You know, I think so many of us, we forget, we don't actually even know who we truly are because we have all these external influences, like you were saying, you know, be it well-meaning parents, school teachers, ministers, whatnot. And we have that through our whole lives, and we learn all these unconventional habits or conventional habits, I mean, that are normal in society,
Yes.
the way of behaving and doing. But when do we ever pause to sit down and think, like, does this really feel good for me? Is this
For
one of my
me,
values and truths?
that's it. And that you have literally just summed it up. That is actually, at the end of the day, one of the most important things that we're trying to find out during the Spirals Personal Mastery course. It's find out what you value, find out what matters to you. Because when you are living with that, then there is an effortlessness that comes into your life. Yes, we need to apply ourselves to work and, you know, find a means of exchange so we can put bread on the table. And, you know, I'm not going to get all into, like, you know, gobbledygooky, whatever. But if we base it on an authenticity that reflects what is important to us, is, you know, I'm very fortunate. I've ended up doing this incredible work. And I suppose because I just allowed myself to at some stage, but I was flattened on my back. I mean, I got one hell of a kick, you know, in the face by the universe by doing too much and being too much out there and being too goal driven and all the rest of it, you know. So I feel very strongly about telling people to slow down and to enjoy the moment. And when people put their lives on hold so they can be happy in 10 years' time, I'm going, well, I don't, for me personally, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Because actually my life just stopped. It's just, you know, and that's it. There's at least every day be doing something you love. So I do also do something else, just quickly to make it all make sense. I actually am the admin and finance manager for I do take a lot of stuff on, for an MPO, but that's a part-time job. I do that for about 4 or 5 hours a day. Now you see why that's great, because remember I started my career in computers. I'm a very systematic, analytical, mathematical person. And I love that because it comes easy to me. Mm-hmm. And so this is the point that I really need to make, because you don't all have to do yoga and be all whatever to actually live a life that is authentic and spiritual and nature-based and all the rest of it. I am satisfying every part of my being with it's taken me a while to juggle the things correctly and not to, having learned from my past, not to take on too much. I have to have very strong boundaries. But the more I learn about that, the more I'm able to pass on what works for me to help other people find what works for them.
I so love that about you, Ray, in the sense that you're so authentic, in the sense, like, you know, I love systems, I love structure, you know, and I need this in my life. And it's good. It's whole. It makes me a better person if I have this. Like, I don't just need to be this like airy fairy yoga teacher, or what, you know, is maybe termed or seen as yogi. And I don't just have to sit and eat celery sticks and, you know, try and look the part. Like, I can actually, you know, be who I am from the core of me. And I know who that is. And I don't need to be apologetic about any aspect of that. And it's kind of like I get this hit, though, this vibe from you, in the sense like, take me as I am, or, you know.
Yeah, pretty much. And why that's so interesting is because my background, if I look at myself years ago, I was so approval oriented, and it was damaging, because that's it. And a lot of the influencing that happened in my life was in response to needing that approval. So whether it started as quite a tiny person needing approval from my mother, you know, you work through the teachers, and then, you know, when you're a teenager, I needed to fit in, I needed to, yeah. And gratefully, I'm pretty, no. I think you do that kind of for one phase in your life. Once you see what it is,
And then
I'm a lot more settled now, and I don't feel like I'm aggressively going around telling people to, you know, leave me alone at all. But
No.
I've got boundaries. That's for me maybe what the big changes. And again, that's a big part of what one learns in the Spirals program, is to find those boundaries, but the ones that respond to your authentic self, not because mama told you have that boundary.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And it's not like because you've said this is a boundary you need to set. It's kind of like find your boundaries. Where are your, I don't even want to call them weaknesses, but kind of like where do you need to be held a little? Because I think that's often what a boundary is. It's just space of where you putting
well, for me,
place so that you don't collapse.
For me, it's self-care. So that's the little terminology. And you see, where's self-care? Oh, yoga. Absolutely. Every day I have this, I call it my morning ritual. I start off with some physical exercise in my body, which is a number of different things, including yoga. I do gratitude. It's absolutely essential to start the day off feeling so blessed. Isn't that just a great way to start? And then I meditate, and then I'm ready for my day. So I've already, you know, created for myself a really good place to be. I'm a high, you can see I've got a huge personality. Okay, so let's be real here. One of my most recent things that I'm really allowing myself to do, and I'm experimenting with it. So apparently as a child, I never had tantrums. And that's what my mom thought was so great about me. Now I'm going, are you kidding? No wonder I'm such a wreck. Tantrums are so important. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm allowing myself to have tantrums. I am doing a full-on 2-year-old thing when I need a tantrum. Most of the time I manage to get to my office or my room or somewhere private so that I can do it.
Not quite in the middle of Woolies or Pick and Pay, hey?
Not so far. Not so far. I'm not filling the trolley with sweets. Yes, no, it tends to, yeah. And I do, you know, my husband's a wonderful, absorbent guy. You know, we give each other lots of space to be ourselves. But so it can be a bit unfair on him. So, you know, for the sake of the relationship too, it's good just to leave the room. I just say, okay, leaving. He probably hears me. And I've now got bruises on my legs. Because I kick things. I mean, it's a proper tantrum. You need to know how incredible I feel afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm like,
the release of energy.
It's like having had some treatment, you know? And I just think, wow, I've got decades of that stuff. So again, I'm not walking around being all buddy on. I'm like so cool. Someone said the other day, because Ray, you can be quite uptight, you know, for someone who like meditates and does yoga, and say, oh, you should see me without the yoga and the meditation. This is me being very cool and calm. And that's also why I really believe in the work that I've done, because it hasn't changed my personality. It hasn't changed who I am. I'm very out there. But how I feel about myself, entirely different. As a young person, I was always embarrassed. I was like, oh my God. And I'm always down on myself, very critical. Judgment is the big thing. Self-judgment and judgment of others. You know, that's not an easy labeled thing that needs to be really worked on. And yeah, so now I encourage tantrums. I'm like, it's my new selling point. Go and have a tantrum. People are like, as an adult? Yes, as an adult. See if you can find the inner child.
Fascinating. So I've got a couple of questions that I'm quite keen on finding out. I just want to go back to your personal mastery course. And so you're saying like each of the modules is about 3.5 hours. Now, is this an online course or is this an in-person? Do you only offer them in person or do you do both?
Well, originally it was only in person, obviously. And I did offer it online. And actually did it with a couple of people. I don't even think we had video in those days, because I remember we were just sort of talking to each other. I'm not even quite sure. I think it was Skype before Skype became video. No, or was it always video? I can't remember, but anyway. And then, of course, COVID happened. And so I actually ran it purely online during that time, it's so easy. And it really makes no difference. And so you can even do it at the same time, which is what I did once. I had a couple of people around the table and then a couple were online. It's absolutely easy. Everyone gets worksheets, whether they're emailed or handed out, it doesn't matter. We can all see each other or not, doesn't matter. One of the things that I stress when we start the course is this is for your information. This isn't now about having to now dump yourself on everybody. If you don't say a word the entire course, it's okay. Do the work, focus on yourself. If you want to share, we're here. And the sharing does come, but there has been admittedly only one person who literally didn't say a word for 12 modules. Very private person. But she emailed me afterwards and just went, OMG, like, thank you. I really got a lot out of that. Like, you know,
Yeah.
amazing. So it's not that, so it's not dependent on you having that kind of interaction or those, because some people, you know, there used to be things where they try and get you to buckle up against other people so that you can have a bit of problems, and then that helps you to see. I'm like, no, there's enough in your life anyway. Just go and look at what's happening. You don't need to recreate anything.
Yeah.
And to, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. So you pretty much do both. And then the question is like, who ideally do you find that this is for? Because it sounds like it's for everyone, but like, are there certain people that you like really, you know, find that this works super well for them? You know, like, is it like the high achiever type of person? Is it the person who's like stuck on the couch and just can't move? Like, what are you seeing?
Who's
like
coming and yeah. Okay, so yes, the easy answer is it's for everyone. And I say that literally because I have worked with school kids all the way through to people in their 70s and everybody in between. Tends to be the midlife people because that's when they start paying attention. I had a number of people do it more than once. Now, this is exciting because this is also what I try to say is don't think it's a once-off. And this is the point of it as well. Take these exercises home. These are your answers today. When you do it again in a year's time or 2 years' time, it's going to be different. This is a little way for you, just the way you check your hair every morning in the mirror, you can have a little check with yourself through these exercises. So it's totally redoable. And this one person that did it, in fact, she wrote a review on Facebook, because I think she did it all of like maybe 5 or 6 years later. But of course, she's feeling a hell of a lot more mature now because there is a sea change between 24 and 30, as we know. But she says, I did it to this young person and that really helped me. And now my life's amazing. And I just know that it's because of this. And I'm so glad I did it again. It's just putting me back on course and, you know, whatever. So, but yeah, I think, you know, when you say, okay, is it for high, it is for everybody. You know, for instance, I just happened to run a program on module 5 on Sunday. We deal with workaholism. So that's obviously for those people. Not everybody will identify with that. Doesn't matter, because there will always be at least one thing in there that you go, So for instance, this one person I was working with, totally not a workaholic at all, but the very last statement was, how often do you put your creative dreams on hold so that you can just finish your work? That hit her. So she would never have called herself a workaholic, because she's not someone who's taking it home and, you know, always having a laptop on, or, you know, all of those kind of things. But she just went, I do feel like I'm not giving myself enough attention because I have a job. So you don't have to be a workaholic to have that mindset.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, you know, when I say for everyone, because and the exercises are all in themselves, I'm not going to say short, but there's nothing that's too preambulatory. And so if it's not talking to you, I just say leave it out, take a break, close your eyes, you know, do some me time. I teach everyone, we need a red robot. You know what great me time that is? Don't get all irritated because you're in a hurry. No, just like hanging out some laundry. Me time. Just what's happening to you while you're doing this? Don't just zone out. Sure. And you see, when I need to say, when I do that, I'm enjoying my life a lot more than being irritated at the red robot or bugger it, I've got this laundry to hang and whatever. It's
when you see those little pauses in your day, in your life, that you can actually be completely present. And I think that's like a lot what you're speaking to as well. It's just finding those quiet little pockets And then maybe that's why we have the chores and why we have the red lights. You know, we don't just always have the green goes, because actually, you know, we need to go within and listen to those little pauses and just take that time to reflect. So I
Yeah.
love that with like, yeah, when you got to go hang up the washing, just don't think about like, you know, how frustrating this is and, you know, why can't my husband do it, or why can't the kids do it, and why is it me doing it again? Just be like, okay, I have now got
Yeah.
5 minutes to just be.
You've got a really good chance of not being interrupted.
Yeah. Because even when you
Yes.
go to the toilet, the dog is going to follow you.
Always, always. And you know, you can then take 15 minutes to hang the laundry if you want. I mean, why not? I literally turned cleaning the pool, which was one of my jobs that I really hated. And Mark now does it, but I used to do it in the old days. When you know, that whole thing of sweeping, it's so zen. I mean, now I understand everything. I used to start cleaning the pool about 3 times a day. It's such a me time thing to just go out there and go vacuuming up the dirt. It's very satisfying to see the dirt going. Oh, we lived in Gordon's Bay with wind, so the pool was always full of dirt. That's why. And then
So you could do it 3 times. You had a reason why to do it 3 times a day.
But it'd be like, I'd be so like chill afterwards. Favorite chore.
Amazing. Awesome. 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 Ray, I have just had so much fun chatting to you and getting to know you, and like, you know, hearing about like your, you know, your burnout, the focus. We were chatting a little bit of like the Ayurveda and Deepak Chopra and the work that, you know, he does and other people. Hearing all about your personal mastery course, kind of like your whole journey and your husband and like opening the studio. And I'll put all your details below for like in the description. So if anyone is out in Somerset West area, that they can come and check out some yoga with you, and then also explore your personal mastery course.
Yeah.
So
And personal mastery, of course, is anywhere. So
is
you know
anyway,
that. Yeah.
exactly. So it's
I
not
don't
like you
like
have
to
to
do
be in
yoga
Somerset
online.
West.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like to do yoga online. I did it obviously during COVID, but I personally need that personal interaction with students. I don't feel that they're getting the right instruction and facilitation and guidance unless I'm in the room with them. Not to say that it's not a thing, online yoga, but that's something that I prefer not.
Well,
So,
that's
but
again, it's like
personal
you
mastery,
setting your boundary. This is what works for
there
me.
we
This
go.
is where I feel comfortable with. And again, it doesn't mean that it can't work for someone else or the way someone else works. It's just this is what my boundary looks like. And I think that's what's like you've been speaking to this whole conversation is just like get to know yourself and see what it is that you need, because there's no wrong way of operating. It's just your way.
You're right. I like that. Love it. Nina, I mean, how fabulous for you to get in touch with me and give me this opportunity. I said to you early on, I like talking about myself. I think I proved the point.
So
But
any last kind of
thank you
like
very much.
comments or thoughts for anyone who's listening, who've maybe been like a little bit inspired by our conversation? Like what would be like a good takeaway for them?
I think with both yoga and personal mastery is people tend to love the phrase, I'm too to do something. So you fill in the blank. It's
Too
not too late.
busy,
You're
yeah.
not too fat. You're not, you know what I mean? You're not whatever. It's not like that. Make a plan. That's all it is. If you get to yoga once a month, do that. Why not? And then do a little bit at home in between. If you want to do a course, when we do a course, as soon as I've got a group, we work it out. So we always start off doing it weekly. We're now down with the one group that I'm doing now. It's every 2 weeks. And then we might have a 3-week gap, and then suddenly no, we need to work one. You know, it's real life. Nothing's cast in concrete. So when I say make a plan, I don't mean it's like this rigid, like, I mean, work it out. There's always some way to work it out. And when you know what it is that you really want to do, you can make it happen. God, I sound like one of these books, but you know that it is true. And that's why, if at the very least, just take a little bit of time with yourself, even if you're not on a program or whatever. Does this feel good? Hold your solar plexus. How do I really feel about this? Start writing. Just brain dumps. Write.
Yeah.
Learn about
And
yourself.
that's so I mean we could go on and on and on because like everything
Yes,
like this is so brilliant. This is so brilliant. But it really is like sometimes you get a hit of like something that feels good and you just think, oh, I don't have the time or I don't have the money. Those are usually the two biggest
Oh,
ones.
yes.
And it's just like actually just do a little bit of research. Just like you're saying, go to the website, Go make that phone call, make that connection, go to just one yoga class. And what will happen is that you're sending your energy and your focus into a specific direction. And the universe knows,
putting it out
oh,
there.
she's wanting to do yoga. She's wanting to do this course. Let's find a way to make it happen. And all of a sudden, the universe just, if it's the right thing.
That's just because the universe always conspires in our favor. And I love that, because it always sounds a little bit conspiratorial. It is. It's because you don't know how. But just if you open yourself to what you're needing to do or wanting to do, or it's a desire, your heart's desire, it's okay to just say, yeah, I deserve it. Let's get on with it.
Yeah.
We never have to worry about the hows. We only have to worry about the whats.
Yeah. There we go. That's a good one. We're going to end with that. Don't worry about the hows. Just take care and notice on the whats.
The whats. Nina, thank you so much.
Oh my word, this has been so much fun, Ray. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to we're going to have another conversation.
Well, I was going to say, maybe roles reversed. Think about that one. Lots of love. Bye.